Welcome to another segment from EndZoneBlog.com. We give you all the latest NFL updates and buzz. In this video, we're going to talk about the five coaches who are on the hot seat right now. We can start with Adam Gase in New York. New York is struggling right now, and Adam Gase is supposed to be a guy that does a great job with the X and O's on the offensive side of the ball, but the Jets are absolutely horrendous. Now, I know losing Sam Darnold at the beginning of the season didn't help Gase or the Jets at all, but the fact is, Adam Gase didn't do a good enough job of, maybe going out and getting a quarterback or, getting the next guy in line prepared to play. It looks like New York's always underprepared when they go into these games, and at some point that has to fall on the coach. I know Gase worked with Peyton Manning, but it's starting to seem like Peyton Manning made Adam Gase's career. Like Gase is just riding Peyton Manning's coattails, and just because Peyton Manning was such a good player, that it made the offensive coordinator, who was Gase, look like a mastermind, and that just wasn't the case. It was just Peyton Manning doing all the work, and all these other people kind of, like I said, riding Peyton Manning's coattails. So Adam Gase is in a lot of trouble in New York. He flamed out in Miami as well, and kind of crashed and burned. He gets to New York, and I think, what do they get? They have one win this year, so that's not good enough. The Jets aren't getting it done, and I think Adam Gase will be out by the end of the season. The next coach we're going to talk about is Vic Fangio. So Vic Fangio takes over for the Denver Broncos. He's a defensive coordinator for the Chicago Bears. He had a number of other stops along his journey too throughout the NFL, but finally gets his shot at being a head coach, and the Denver Broncos look awful. One thing that Vic Fangio really struggled on, he put Philip Lindsay and Royce Freeman in a timeshare, and what that did is it took handoffs away from Philip Lindsay, who was clearly the better player. Lindsay went to the Pro Bowl as a rookie, so to reduce his role wasn't a smart decision. And I know Vic Fangio is a defensive minded guy whose main focus is on the defense, but he still has the final say on all personnel decisions at the end of the day. You have those powers when you're the head coach, and he should have knew that Philip Lindsay was his guy on offense, and whoever was making the calls, in terms of, whether it was the running back position or the offensive coordinator there, he should have came over top of those guys and said that, Philip Lindsay's too good of a player to have on the sidelines. I know I'm in charge of the defense, but Lindsay needs to be on the field. So the next coach we're actually going to talk about is Zac Taylor in Cincinnati. So Zac Taylor was supposed to be an offensive mastermind himself, and he was supposed to come in, take over for Marvin Lewis, and fix some of the Cincinnati Bengals problems. But since Zac Taylor has taken over this team, they haven't won a game. So they're playing horrible, and Cincinnati is seeing how much Marvin Lewis meant to this team. That doesn't bode well for Zac Taylor at all, because there's such a gap from where this team was under Marvin Lewis to Taylor, that it just highlights how much those guys played for Marvin Lewis and how much those guys respected Marvin Lewis. Clearly, they were giving more effort for Lewis, and Zac Taylor, for all his brilliance in terms of play design and all that. He doesn't get his guys to buy in as much, and they, like I said, they don't play as hard for Zac Taylor as they did for Marvin Lewis, and that's why Zac Taylor will probably be out after 1 year. We saw the same thing happen to Steve Wilks in Arizona. If you don't perform in this league, you're going to be out of there before you know it. It's just the way it goes, and it's not good enough. It hasn't been good enough for Zac Taylor, and you know, the other guy on the list, Mike Vrabel. So Mike Vrabel has won the last two games with the Tennessee Titans, so he's got some optimism right now. And the reason he's been winning these games is because he turned the team over to Ryan Tannehill, who throws the ball a little bit better than Marcus Mariota, and that's why this team has won two games in a row. But Mike Mularkey, the coach that the Tennessee Titans fired before they hired Mike Vrabel, had this team in the playoffs. And when you go from a playoff team to regressing to a team that's not making the playoffs, the owners upstairs who don't know a ton about football, they know the direction the team's heading. They know if the team's getting better or getting worse. They don't know how to go about it. They don't know how to execute it. They don't know how to evaluate players. They don't know, schemes or plays or game plans or anything like that. But they see one thing. They see if the team is winning or losing games. And unfortunately for Mike Vrabel, the team has taken a step backwards from where they were with Mike Mularkey. So the pressure's on him as well. He needs to make it happen. And if, it doesn't happen, then that could be it for, Mike Vrabel in Tennessee. Amy Adams Strunk, the owner there, she needs to see a little bit more from him. Unfortunately, that hasn't been the case. And they need to get it together soon. Like I said, they won 2 games in a row, but if they can't, keep this good momentum going throughout the second half of the season, and if the Tennessee Titans unravel, then Amy Adams Strunk will probably fire Mike Vrabel. And then there's Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn in Atlanta. It's unfortunate because Dan Quinn was so close to winning the Super Bowl. Atlanta probably should have beat the New Orleans Patriots in that game, or the New England Patriots. I said the New Orleans Patriots, but the New England Patriots. And, New England came storming back, and, Tom Brady and James White led the Patriots to this amazing come behind victory, which stole the Super Bowl away from Dan Quinn and the Atlanta Falcons. And, ever since then, the Atlanta Falcons haven't been the same. And unfortunately, they're not responding to Dan Quinn anymore. So if they're not responding to Dan Quinn and they're not giving a good effort, and they're losing these games week in and week out, eventually the blame has to fall on the head coach's shoulders. I don't think Dan Quinn will make it through the offseason. It's just the nature of the business. Arthur Blank needs to see more from his team. He's paying a lot of money for these athletes. He's paying a lot of money for the staff they have there, and the results haven't been good enough. That's just the bottom line, And as much as Arthur Blank probably likes and respects Dan Quinn, he needs to see some results on the field, or the value of his business drops significantly. And unfortunately for Dan Quinn, that can't happen. So I think Dan Quinn will be out of there by the end of the season. I'm John Kuzma. Thanks for sticking with me there. It was a little bit of a long one. Check out endzoneblog.com. I appreciate it. I'm signing off.